Hey, Will.
Oh!
Did you made Bendy songs?
No.
Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what's great about those Bendy songs?
I don't know, Chris. Why don't you tell me?
They're on vinyl.
That is not what I expected.
I didn't either, but here we are. It's like this, except not like that. Editor, put the real one in my hand. Look, you can get that. It can spin and play music just like the 1930s.
Is it
maybe.
got color?
No.
Oh,
But- But it has a splatter color on the vinyl.
What?
But hurry, because it's only available until January 13th.
January 3rd. Wow. Get on it.
Get on it. And don't give me that, I don't have a turntable. Well, guess what? Turntables are always available. This vinyl won't be.
What are you, a standing chair? F off, you.
Links are in the description. Click and buy, or else we will be sad.
I have a question.
What's your question?
We'll find out real soon.
Hey!
Hey buddies, it's Will of DAGames. Welcome to another video with my good friend Chris. This is one that we actually went for on Twitter, and if you wanted to know a little bit about our Bendy stuff, well, we got a whole video, we put a whole thing out on Twitter, you gave us questions, and we're gonna answer them.
I am alive, immortalized. Oh, okay. Yes, we, and by we, I mean our friend Chrissy, tweeted out there to collect questions from all of you, your burning questions about the Bendy songs, which, God, how many have we made now? 9, technically?
Well, if you count the different iterations of Build Our Machine, yeah, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Five, 6, 8.
There you go. There you go. I mean, obviously he made them, so he should know. But we tweeted, and at least over 70 of you have replied with burning questions. I've read through some of them to make sure that, they're worth answering. So let's not dilly-dally. Will, are you ready to answer some questions? I'll take that as a yes. Well, first one, we know this name from Missy Momo. If you were to pick any of the Bendy songs, which one would you consider as the most difficult/challenging to create? It can range from the making of the ensemble, the melody, editing, anything that you would consider to be hard. I think that's a good question.
Oh, that's very easy though. Instruments of Cyanide was absolutely the hardest one to do. I could never get it right, and about 6 times later, that's when I finally got it. That was a difficult one because Chapter 3 threw me a fucking curveball. Everything leading up to it, of course it was a horror game, it was expected and everything like that, but it had this unique flow from Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. As soon as Chapter 3 came in, I thought I had it, but then it got so depressing. And I was like, well, it's won everything I wanted out of the game, but now it's harder for me to write a song that's not what I've been doing. So that one involved having 6 different takes. I always had Chichi and Caleb in mind for it, though. That's the one thing that stayed. However, for the choir piece, I ended up having like over 20 vocals from me in those choir pieces, and then finally getting it right to a point where my skill set was as good as it was back then. And then we got a whole video made. And yeah, that was probably the most tedious work process I ever had. And yeah, at the same time, it made everything else afterwards also more difficult, although I did manage to get through it.
This one comes from Shadow Knife 333. Did you ever think of a different name before you came up with Build Our Machine?
You Die Tonight.
I guess that makes sense.
And obviously, as demo tracks go, I don't have proper names until I decide to release them on stores. And when I read that, obviously it was a beta code. I was like, very generic. It's bad Will. But then I started hearing Build Our Machine a bit more, and it was just kind of, well, that's a bit more fitting. And that was in the process of the 12-hour period it took to make that song. It was like really easy to do. So yeah, good shit.
This one comes from Adrian Claus, I think.
Santa.
They have a question for me and a question for you. So for you, is there a Bendy song that was never finished besides Sent from Above? We all know that story, apparently. If so, why exactly was it canceled?
Because musicians go through a lot of different things. Like, for musicians, they tend to go through several different... It's probably a foreign concept for people, listeners of Nerdcore, to know about standard musicians on labels in studios. They make an album worth 11 songs, but not all of them will make it in. Like, they'll make 30 different ideas at the most, and they have to put in at least 11 of them. And that's what we call a draft, because we just, under our own discretion, just don't like it personally. Just about it. And that's kind of the reason why, you know, many of the drafts and the demos that I made for Instruments of Cyanide, I just scrapped. I could never find a purpose for them, and I don't hold on things like most people do. They have this weird obsession with holding on to history, and I'm just sort of like, for me, I'm not that.
You want to look forward, not look back.
Yeah, I guess that's, I never really had anything else other than, okay, Meet Thy Maker might have had, like, a previous draft. Yeah, it did. It had one demo beforehand. And again, it just wasn't good enough. It's as simple as it is. From my perspective, it just wasn't good enough. And I've released what I deem to be the best version of it. And nothing else matters.
And for me, they ask, how Eternal Swing Encore came to be. The initial idea and everything onwards from there. Well, Encore is the redux, however you want to pronounce it, of Eternal Swing, an album we put out, what was that, 2019?
Yeah,
when
something like 2019, when we were on Kunaki, definitely.
Yeah, and the reason I, pitched the idea to do a CD was, well, one, we didn't have any, which was baffling to me as, like, a musician. Artists typically have CDs, but also because of financial issues at the time, where Will really needed some money, and I was like, well, why don't we sell your music on CD? Like, there's going to be a demand for that. And obviously, his biggest hit was Build Our Machine, so it was like, well, logically, let's go out first with the Bendy stuff. We'll have a Bendy-themed album. I remember saying to you, is like, if you could name a Bendy album, what would you call it? And you said, because you had to come up with all this, Tomb of the Eternal Swing. I said, let's just do Eternal Swing. I like that. And you go, okay.
Yeah.
And then that became the album name. And then, I
He asked me during a point where I was doing Iris stuff, so I had a lot of cryptic stuff in the back of my head. Like, that's something I have to wade through constantly. It's like, DAGames is not as cryptic as the Will Ryan original stuff.
Exactly, because Tomb of the Eternal Swing was like, it's a bit...
Where's the tomb?
What tomb of what? Who's dead?
I think in the back of my head I was thinking archive. Thinking Iris, thinking archive, lock underneath, and like it'd be a historic thing to bring up. But
yeah, I spent the, God, I think that was summer. I think when we were doing that, spring, like late spring or early summer, and it was just let's put the stuff together. And I remember you had a song that you didn't finish, which was like this doo-wop, this acapella, which became Mr. Crooked. I was like,
yeah.
Can we finish that and like put it on the album as like an exclusive track to really incentivize people to get it? And I love Mr. Crooked.
This
stuff
guy
like
is responsible for a lot of the things where I'm like, I'm probably not gonna finish it. Gets finished, because especially with Mr. Crooked, I was just sat here like, it was originally just gonna be a shitpost thing. I'm just like, yeah, just do this. It'd be funny, haha. Because I was in that process where I really didn't want to do so much Bendy, because as you've known, many of you have known throughout my history on DAGames, I never like being a one-person and one-genre trick. I like to do so many different things and expand to promote variety.
You don't want to be a one-trick pony, yeah.
Yeah, and thought, well, I don't have any more ideas for Bendy. So, Chapter 5, I'm just going to, well, it's Joey, do something that's different with Joey. I'm just like, I made one bit, and then I'm like, I'm tired of doing it as a joke. And then Chris was like, I like that. You should finish it. I was like, really? What? All right. And after some back and forward, we did it. And then he's like, we should put that on the Eternal Swing. We should put that on the album to finish off the album. Be like, oh yeah.
Well, because my issue at the time was like, the album's a little short. Like, let's just throw something on there. Yeah. And I had remembered that you had that, draft or your shitpost song. The other one, obviously, being the Baldy song, which would now go on to be one of your biggest hits, was like, it's nothing. I was like, no, there's something there. You should finish that. And he did. And, well, the rest is history.
Yeah.
But as far as, like, Eternal Swing Encore, the one that is, as we're recording this, and when it is out, the one that is currently out for you to buy on vinyl, that's simply just because after we discontinued the original album, we never stopped hearing, when's it coming back out? When's it coming back out? And I kept pulling, back as like, well, we want to wait till Dark Revival comes out if we ever put it back out, because, then people will be interested again. We have more songs since then, because we have IMB, we have the rock version of Build Our Machine, we have the Indie Cross song. Like, we had more to put on there to make it a fuller album. And with Dark Revival finally hitting, Steam, it was like, now's the time, because this is an all-encompassing Bendy and the Ink Machine album. Because for all we know, we don't know the future of Bendy. Outside of Dark Revival, they might, do more after that. And who knows, we might do, like, a volume 2 of sorts for if Will ends up making more songs. But that's the thing, don't bet on it, but anything's possible.
Yeah, originally with Eternal Swing, we wanted to make it an all-encompassing Bendy, but because Dark Revival was taking so long to release, and we got a surprise drop, so after a while, we basically just segregated it to Bendy and the Ink Machine. That's really all it is. I saw a few people are kind of like, why not? Doesn't it seem a bit pointless to not put a Dark Revival song on there? Yes, if it was also supposed to be about Dark Revival, but it's not. It's supposed to be.
It's not. Eternal Swing was a build. Yeah. Eternal Swing was always a Bendy and the Ink Machine album. Like, that's where it is centered around, so it only makes sense that it only has that stuff. And even if we do release it, like, what's the change? It's one extra song. You could get that. There are vinyl releases where they put 2 additional tracks as a digital code or whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. It's a great album and you should get it. I think this is a decent question. Sammy the Fox says 2 questions, but here they go. 1, what was the process of writing these absolute masterpieces? That's a bit of a loaded question, because that's like 9 songs you have to think about every writing process.
Yeah, it depends on which ones. One of them was more tedious, but the one thing in common was that every one of them had a spark. It had like a stroke of genius moment where it was just... It just came out of my head after just a random encounter. The butterfly effect happened, and I just vomited whatever came from my head, really, after that, and then curated it, and then perfected it to the best of
Well, I'll expand on that and say, which one took the longest to write, and which one took the shortest?
Build Our Machine is the shortest. Instruments of Cyanide was the longest.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
I know how long Instruments took. I was there.
Yeah.
And this is an interesting question. It feels more like they want inspiration. How can I write something similar but just different? Go to an airport and listen to Mambo No. 5.
Here's the best. See, I get this question a lot. It's like, how can I be like you? You just gotta be yourself. I know. It's you probably don't like that answer either, but that's how I'm me. I'm myself. I don't have anybody else, and you just gotta be you. That's really all it is. There is no secret code to doing me, and also trying to be me.
There's no shame in taking inspiration, but still go for being you. You are, as
many of the prolifics in the industry did not become themselves by being somebody else. They were always themselves. They stand out from each other. If you can stand out, then you don't even need the service of one.
And everyone who tried to be someone else faded to obscurity. Ian Carroll says, what is your favorite and least favorite song from the album, and why?
Oh my god, this sucks. Gospel of Dismay or Freaky Machine is my favorite on there. Gospel of Dismay because, I mean, it's a fucking jive. It's fun. It's like one of the more fun ones. It's a character-built one as well, so speaking as the character, it's kind of how I made the adorable little Bendy voice that I had, a sort of a headcanon voice. And then Freaky Machine, because I was working on Indie Cross at that point, and I was having a lot of fun working with chromatics. I've had a lot of fun taking an original idea and just sort of bouncing it with the new tech that I have and the new skill sets that I acquired. I had a lot more fun just like going through that. Did they say the worst?
Yeah, well, least favorite, but
sorry. So the least favorite was Instruments of Cyanide. Again, the process was tedium. It came out great, but the tedium is what's gonna make me feel that.
it's your least favorite because you can't enjoy it as a product. You only can remember everything that was going on while working on it.
Yeah, exactly.
IME is my favorite.
Because that's the thing. What's your least favorite? What's your worst favorite? I can't tell you which ones are my favorite because I have so many favorites. But it's so much easier to say which ones I hate. For absolutely sure. I always say this quite a lot. It's like, my projects are like my children. I can tell you which ones I hate, but I can't tell you which ones I love.
I think this is a good one. Reese, I'm not sure, Alex says, how did you find out about Bendy, and did it have a big impact on your career?
It absolutely did have a massive impact on my career, for one. Although FNAF took the reign of the first, for sure. How I found it out was through GameJolt. I remember I was playing, ironically we talk about FNAF, I was playing Five Nights at Treasure Island, which is a fan game made a long while ago. And at that point, I was like, oh my god, I love it when they make Disney dark. But because I was in that realm of being like, well, I am a gamer. I don't want to do music that much. You know, I'm a Let's Player too. So I wanted to see what games there were because everybody was playing something. And I just searched Dark Disney on GameJolt. And it took a bit, but then I found this, Bendy and the Ink Machine just on the GameJolt. It was Chapter 1. And if you guys have seen Chapter 1, the very first iteration of Chapter 1, before they upgraded it, revised it and everything, you know how long ago that was. And so I was looking at the page, I'm like, interesting, it's very small, not many eyes on it. Fuck it. So I just played it, and I enjoyed it. I had no idea why the hell it wasn't viewed as much as it was, but it was there, it existed. So then I played it, I did some gameplay, and then immediately, that's what Sean built our machine. It was like, that game impacted me so much that I wanted to see what Electric Swing was like. Because Sean, our editor Sean, our best friend Sean, is an Electro Swing enthusiast as well. There's a band, an album that he gave us because we were playing that time of game. And at that point, he was just like, you should definitely check this song out and this album out and everything. And it wasn't even related. And we were just like, what's this? It's Electric Swing. I want to do that. And then I just instantly came in. And 12 hours later, non-stop, no food or anything, and I came out with a bop, I guess, that you've all heard.
Millions, hundreds of millions have heard.
Yeah, I remember crying when I first found the first million, because it did not take long. I think it took about a day to get there, and I cried just sitting there like, it's not FNAF!
This is an interesting one from Annanas. Says, what was the reason behind the change of pace from electric swing to rock orchestra, then back to the good old swing? And is the vinyl production Chris's idea since he has a dedicated collection of it? Well, let's answer the first question first.
Okay. I chose to do different genres because I fucking can. It's not as long-winded, unfortunately. Like, sometimes I'll just have a vibe and I'll go with it. Like, electric swing is there, but though I will say, when I went to rock and metal, it's as I said before, with Chapter 3, it was so depressing that I could not make an electric swing. So I just went back to what I was familiar with, and at that point, I was very much listening to things like Nightwish and Within Temptation were kind of like big bands that at that point that I'd always loved, and I always wanted to take Instruments of Cyanide in that direction. But obviously with the previous ones, if you remember, I made semi-electro swing stuff with the previous demos. And again, big reason why I didn't vibe with them, because the game was so sad, and that did not scream sad. So I wanted to really flavor that, and I really think Instruments of Cyanide was the perfect Chapter 3. Even though I might not have many good memories with it, Chapter 3 was the perfect Chapter 3 song I could have done. And then, as soon as I did all of that, I went through my own arc. Because you'll find a thing with me. If I'm doing more than one song for a game, I'll probably do like the thing that I really liked to do. I'll probably do the thing that people expect. and then I'll do something myself and be like, nope, it's my way now, my turn for a little bit, my turn on the swing for a little bit, and then I'll go, all right, now I've had my fun, now it's your fun. And I'll always keep interchanging. I'll always do something partly for what they want and partly for what I want, and for the most part, yeah, that's the drastic change between and how it all happened, and it just happens.
There you go. And at least with the whole, was the vinyl created because I collect vinyl? Kinda? I mean, to me, it was like, I wanted to put Eternal Swing on vinyl since it was discontinued. Like, to me, that was just the most natural, like, next step, because of all the DAGames music or albums that we could put out on vinyl, Bendy just made sense, because aesthetically, like, it just works. But, I mean, yeah, of course, as a collector, I want one, and I wanted it to be a cool, like, as a fan of that medium, I wanted to make something that if I didn't know Will, I'd be like, that's so cool, I gotta buy that. Yeah. Like, that was, you know, because, you know, me and Kristen at Screenwave, you know, when we were throwing ideas around, it was because both of us are vinyl collectors, so we wanted to make something that we would want to buy. So, right. Yes. It definitely had an input, but it wasn't the main reason. The main reason was because I don't stop hearing, when's it coming back out? When's it coming back out? It's like, all right, we'll put it back out with a bang. Let's put it out on vinyl. Yep. And yes, CDs will follow soon, eventually, but right now we really are doing the vinyl for now.
Exactly.
Nick, or Glitcherade VA, says, how did you come to feature Chichi and Caleb in Instruments of Silence? So I guess, why'd you choose them?
Well, I'll answer the last part, because they're so good. And they're so nice. They're so good and they're so nice, and they've been long-running friends for a while. Actually, I'd known Chichi long before Bendy, because she was in, I believe, the Honey Pop, the first Honey Pop song, I think. Or at least at that point, she was friends with Chloe, or at least that end. And we met at BabsCon for the very first time. And so, yep. Yeah, there was odd talks here and there, and so we had that at hand. With Caleb, I started knowing him through my kid. My child was actually listening to a lot of Disney Frozen covers, and there was a male cover of Let It Go, I think it was, of Caleb. And I remember seeing his name float around a few times before, and I'd met him at MomoCon and San Japan and all of that. I remember just talking to Jess and just like, I know that man. And I remember that. And then, yeah, I found they were a perfect fit just because I know their range. I know Chichi. I just have this thing about knowing the right performers for the right stuff. And I'll always do that at the very beginning. I'll always think about what's suited. And it's why with Chrissy, why I chose her for Cut de Grace was because I knew she had that ragtime feel about her voice, and she was into Broadways and musicals and all of that, and I felt like the eclectic taste of what we're going for makes sense. Chichi has a massive range in terms of like going from lows to highs, and I feel like she can keep that note in tune with emotion. That works. And Caleb can bring out a very operatic part of him, which is like, it's warm and yet it's emotional. So I felt that perfect for something like Instruments of Cyanide, especially. I mean, the first song I had with him, I think, was Take My Breath Away, the Zelda song. Of course I'd have him again, for sure.
And we basically have, oddly, 2 back-to-back, which are basically the exact same question from Ale, Hershey, and Matt. So I'll reword it and let's set the record straight. Is Mr. Crooked a Chapter 5 song? Yes or no?
Yeah.
There you go. There's your answer. Like the debate is settled. It's a Chapter 5 song. Whether you like it or not, that comes from the horse's mouth.
Yeah.
That is a lot. The problem is these are good questions, but we've answered them.
Yeah. True. You guys obviously have a very common questions.
You do.
I'm just glad we could answer them here. You know, you gave it from the horse's mouth, and the horse's rider. Nay.
I mean, I think this is a good one. It says for both, but I think it makes more sense to be directed at you. So, Bendy the Cake asks, what's your inspiration?
Oh God, I have the biggest catalog of inspiration. You couldn't tie me down to one.
Well, let's pin it down to what inspired you for the Bendy song specifically. We've already mentioned Mambo number 5 with
Five Nights at Treasure Island. Five Nights at Treasure Island got me into Bendy, and then I just made Build Our Machine. About it, really. I don't remember having much inspiration other than Sean recommending me to listen to a few of the tracks, and I'm just like, I think I get how it is. And then just do typical Will DA fashion. Our own niche, and just be like, yep, I guess it's just what I vomit.
There you go. General Awesome says, what was the most difficult part when it came to putting this project, Eternal Swing Encore, together, if there was any? There weren't really any. Like, the songs were already made.
Yeah, the songs were already done. And we already had done Eternal Swing before, and this is just the Encore version. The only tedium was getting it into the ballpark of being made, because we didn't know Dark Revival was going to come out at some point. And then also Screamwave, we needed to talk to them about how we were going to do it. And also getting the art done.
It wasn't really difficult. It was just like.
But that's normal for us. So that's not really
like it's not really a hurdle. It's no different than setting up a meeting, agreeing and disagreeing, and then going into production. Like it's not.
Yeah, it's a very easy process.
I mean, I guess it was like the closest thing was, well, we had kind of a tight window to get the assets done on time, but we did it. So
yeah,
they were honestly, it was a pretty smooth production. To be really honest, it helps when everything's like we're not making new songs. We already have songs.
Yeah,
we're just putting them on a vinyl.
Ask me about Dawn of the Demetrix, and then we'll see. But like, Eternal Swing, yeah, it was very easy for us, for sure.
Maybe I think this one is interesting. Star J Courage? Kurage? I don't know how that's supposed to be pronounced, but they say, how did you come up with such bangers? Well, I don't know if we can answer that, but it's the second part of it is, how do you do that sweet screamo?
Oh, I actually record myself on the toilet taking like, literally, you just have to unleash. You have a karma or a curry, and you also have monster, so you're basically constipated at that point. So you have to do more monster to kind of balance it out and everything and make your bowels go. If somebody with like IBS, it goes crazy. So when you sit down on that toilet, you have to unleash the inner fury within, and you have to start going.
Rescue TX, I think. Some of these names are odd, but they ask, do you write the lyrics or the instrumental first, or the other way around?
It depends on the song. Sometimes I've got a lyrical vibe that I want, and sometimes I'll have an instrumental piece. I'll work around either one of those later down the line, but I know from when I actually open up the application, I do at least have a piano roll. I have a piano roll that I want to work with, and then probably just remove the piano roll because I only use it as a reference. So then I'm like, But if I have a guitar part that sometimes I'll just be playing in my room, I'll just play a guitar part, and I'll come along a set of chords I want to play, and play that for about an hour to see if I get bored of it. And I'll be like, I'm not bored of this. And then I'll use it, and I'll accompany it with drums. Then later on, I'll sometimes think of the vocals, but then I won't even think of the lyrics first. Sometimes I'll just think of vowel sounds that I really like, and just go like that, and then I'll think like, okay, what word goes with I? So then I'll write it down, and I'm like, okay, now center everything around everything else, and then just keep going with the flow from there. And yeah, so it really depends on the song. I could either start from lyrics or start from instrumental. I never do the same thing over and over again.
And I'd say this will probably be our last question. Landmarker 1 says, of all the Bendy songs you've made, which one is your favorite in terms of the video itself? So, which one? I guess they're asking which one's your favorite video.
Gospel of Dismay. It was the most animated. It was quality efficient. It was whimsical. And a lot of the assets we actually had were used later in many other things. Like some companies like using reusable assets and everything. Well, Gospel of Dismay kind of did that a lot for us at the same time. And just the whimsy of it, the fun of it. It was definitely my favorite one. I know Instruments of Cyanide. I liked Instruments of Cyanide's video. I did like it, and I liked the background day aesthetic. And I kind of like what they did with Alice as well. But honestly, for what it was and everything going on with Gospel of Dismay, that is right up there. I can't say Build Our Machine. I made that shit when I was inexperienced for 15 hours, and people like it. I can tell you every problem. But that's only because if you compare Build Our Machine's lyric video, the one I made, to Brace for the Freight Train, another lyric video that I did all by myself, you'll see the growth. You'll see the change.
Oh, yeah.
But Gospel of Dismay...
I remember teasing you when you showed me the Choo Choo Charles animation. I was just like, oh, who made that? And you're like, I did. Like, no, you didn't. He goes, yeah, it was me. And then I'm like, going like, look at you. You used to draw characters with the same two hands.
Yeah.
They both had left hands. And now he can make like actually really good puppet rigs and everything that look good. It's like,
yeah,
that progress.
I didn't quite, because I'd used Adobe Animate a lot with Iris as well. I'd gotten accustomed to doing a lot of different animation throughout the years, sprinkled in. And I actually got my way Constantine. But I never had much to show for it until I did something like that. And because obviously I used the bone rigging tool for the first time with that song, and it was insane. But if you were talking about like, from Build Our Machine until then, you can see the growth, which is why like it did come up with Bendy beats, or ND eats as people like to call it. Yeah, I'm better at vector design, these guys. Don't worry. But Gospel of Dismay was polished, it was clean, it was done by the Come Zone guy. I mean, what more can you say? I know. It's funny, like, how that correlates. And he's always been a perfectionist for this kind of stuff. And he's currently working on Cup de Grace's extended lyric video at the moment, so we've got some stuff to show you real soon.
And with that, thank you guys so much for your questions. Sorry that we didn't answer all of them, but I mean, that was a lot, and hopefully you are satisfied with the answers we gave. And be sure, if you haven't already, buy Eternal Swing Encore on vinyl. It's a very limited run, and just I'm begging you, as a fan of this kind of stuff, you don't want to miss out on it because it is never being repressed, at least not this edition. Ever again. So get it. If you don't have a turntable, buy it anyway. You can get a turntable later. I'm telling you, you don't want to miss out on this. Link is in the description.
As far as it goes, it's a completely limited stock. Of course, if availability is not something you get right now, we do hope and plan to release CD versions later on.
CDs are around the corner, don't worry.
We're gauging demand, we're gauging to see if people want them, and of course we'll do our best to accommodate for that. But otherwise, thanks for the questions. They have been, I hope they've been enlightening. I hope that I've been able to answer a few curious ones, and even if you didn't have any and you're just curious what others thought, call them smart for us, I guess. I don't know. But thanks, guys. Again, Eternal Swing Encore on vinyl right now. Limited stock. Get it while you still can. Make Chris happy. And me happy. And of course, if you like what you saw here, click like and subscribe. Share with your friends and family, maybe your dog. Check out DAGames Official on Twitter for news, information on music, animations, let's plays, and live streams. And I don't even know why we say that. I barely do them anymore. Anyway, this has been Will and Chris. We've been doing some questions. We got questions and we gave you answers. And we'll see you very soon. Peace out.
Bye-bye.
Motherfucker.